You are listening to the ReRACEables podcast. Hello and welcome back to the ReRACEables podcast. I'm your host, Tom, joined tonight by Jeremy, Nicole, and Lizzie.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody. This is exciting. We had to have an emergency podcast here. The Amazing Race leaked out its first little teaser on Instagram for season 34. And if they're leaking out teasers, we have to leak out a podcast. So without further ado, two things we learned. Let's jump right in. Two things we learned from a little bit of research, and the whole premise of this podcast was to kind of just react hot takes to the teaser video with the 12 teams. But nonetheless, once you start searching and finding the video, you learn a little something. So number one, there's no non-eliminations. And number two, they are starting the race outside of the United States in Munich, Germany for the first time in 34 seasons.
I like to think from the CBS perspective. Are they willing to risk shrinking the number of episodes in the season down? Because we got to think that with the non-elimination legs, they didn't do a big, splurge. They still eliminated one team at a time. So how do we meet the same episode count per se?
And don't forget this, last season was only 10 episodes, I believe, because of COVID.
We could be looking at that, though, but as we know from our last podcast, there is a certain team that seemed to always survive and get themselves to the top three.
Yeah.
So in this season, I'm thinking we're going to see more of these longer legs, meaning if we go back to last season, like Lulu and Lala and what I believe was England, when they got on the tour bus towards the end of the episode and found out that the leg was not over. I think we're going to start seeing a lot longer legs, but I think there's going to be some additional stuff with these longer legs.
I was thinking, I agree. Perhaps longer legs is going to be a thing. Perhaps maybe more twists that we haven't seen yet. If they're taking away a twist, they probably will be adding a twist, is what I'm thinking.
I think you're right on that angle. Both of you, actually. I think the longer legs and the two-part eliminations we could see, right, where it's 2 episodes for one team to be eliminated, but also the new twist, because Survivor is this new era they're in, just constant changes and twists in the game that some people would have a really big problem with. Some people like it, but I think that the Amazing Race is probably going to follow that in some degree as well, with some major new twists.
I have mixed feelings about it. I kind of like the non-elimination legs because it keeps it there's always hope. If your favorite team is last on the map, well, maybe they'll still be in it. And I kind of like that piece to it. But I also don't like it because sometimes it makes me question, all right, this team just so happened again they get a non-elimination. How much is this the producers finagling things?
And this goes back to Arun and Natalia. How many times did they get eliminated last season? 4 times?
One too many.
So you have to imagine some feedback came to the show that said that was a little ridiculous, given that it was the most unique season probably of the whole series because of COVID and the stopping the race and restarting it. But you can't have a team have four lives in it, that or whatever it was. That was ridiculous.
So do you think this is an overcorrect then? I guess we'll see. If it was too lenient one way, do you think they've gone too far the other way to try and prevent it happening again? Could there not have been only one non-elimination leg?
I think it's probably listening to the fans. I think it's listening to the people who watch the show and realizing that, again, Arun and Natalia had too many chances. Some of us were even on the boat of not even having teams come back that were already eliminated, but because it was the COVID season and it allowed them to even really restart the race, or so they say. They don't even show the speed bump that they were supposed to do. as a result of their being out already, penalty kind of devalued the whole restarting the race with the same people who were eliminated. So maybe it's just kind of this, maybe just an overcorrection, but a reassurance that nobody's going to get that extra chance, and the season will be a little cleaner in that sense.
I think what Nicole said is kind of on it, though, as a response to the correction, that maybe instead of them doing, as we said, maybe only one non-elimination leg, instead they are adding this twist where it's like, okay, we hear the fans, Runa and Natalia, too many chances. We're going to take away this non-elimination, but we're going to make each leg a bit harder in a sense with these added twists. That's what I think the correction is, in a way, with these twists.
Just a quick go around. Does losing the non-eliminations really affect the show? Doesn't affect it at all, or somewhat affects it? For me, doesn't affect it. I don't think that it brings any value to it, really. And I don't think I will miss it not being a part of the show this season.
I'm not going to miss it.
It's hard for me to say, but because who knows, right? But I agree with Nicole, what you said earlier about there having some sense of hope. When a team you really like gets to the end, there's always that small little tidbit of hope that they might not be eliminated. I don't think that that's a huge part of the show. Like, that's not like the reason people watch, but it was an element that I enjoyed.
So you're somewhere in the middle, Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said before, in the middle, mixed feelings. I feel like it might be one of those things where once it's gone, we won't even like think back on it, really. It'll be like, yeah, well, oh yeah, remember when they did that? Oh yeah, okay.
Moving on to the starting outside the United States. Do we care about that? Is that a big deal, a little deal, or no deal?
For me, it's a little bit of a deal because I always thought that this was their trip around the world, that there was some meaning in that. You started in most of these seasons, you start in the US and then you don't see the US again until that final leg. Obviously, like season 8 is an exception. This idea of starting and stopping in the same country, or starting and ending in the same country, there was something to that I like, that represented this idea of going around.
Yeah, I think that's nice that it bookends in the United States. It's like that, because I know I always take a breath of fresh air, like when the final 3 teams finally like fly into LAX. You're like, oh my God, they're home. They're so close. Everyone speaks English again. It's so great. Like, so there's that. But I also can't help but wonder, to your point, Jeremy, like if they're starting in, what is it, Germany, are they going to end in Germany? Are they going to end somewhere else in Europe? Are they going to end in the United States like normal? And if so, then what was the point of going to Germany for the first round? I also feel like part of the excitement of the first leg for teams, these are my 2 thoughts. Part of the excitements for the first leg for teams is like getting to the first foreign country. You know what I mean? Like, it's exciting to leave the United States, leave your home, and then go to that first foreign place. But if going to your first foreign place and the cameras like aren't even rolling, it's not even a race, that kind of takes away from the excitement. I feel like as a fan, I'm left out of that part of their journey with them, because you learn a lot about the teams, even just like getting to the first United States airport. You learn a lot. And so we kind of miss out on that by them already being in Germany by the time we tune in.
I don't like it. It is an American show. I like that it starts and ends in America. There's, I don't know, there's something to that, but also because I like watching them navigate places in America too. In addition to seeing the world, it's cool to see different places around America. It's especially cool when it's places that I've been, or places that they've been, that we travel to, and it's like, oh, you know, they did this on the race, or they were here, or oh, I recognize this place. So if that piece is missing, that's not great.
To that point, maybe a familiarity of, I know what that airport looks like, I know how to get there, or I live in Miami and they're starting in Miami. I think that happened in All Stars when Oswald and Danny had that little bit of an advantage. They knew how to get to the airport. Maybe it's just something that we're familiar with and we're used to, but it'll be interesting. I'm most interested in how they're actually going to start this whole season, right? Last year they did the kind of canned message from Phil on their phones because, again, it was kind of that whole pre-recordedness thing to it because it was going to become the COVID season. Maybe I think that's why they did it, but
Hated it.
yeah, it was it's a little strange. But they also released a picture of all of the destinations that this season will cover. And there is the only one in the United States is Nashville. So perhaps they're going to end in Nashville to that point. And if they're starting in Munich, it looks like they're in a lot in Europe, a little bit in North Africa. Oh, no, the Middle East. Yeah. And then to the United States. So it's kind of like they're kind of staying in one little area until they come back to the United States. So maybe it was just easier for the show to kind of create this little pathway around Europe and kind of make the show a little more contained because they don't go to Asia, they don't go to Australia, they're not even going to really that side of the world. No India, no China, none of those places. So it must have had something to do with that maybe too. So I think it's a no deal. Sounds like Jeremy, you think it's a little deal. Nicole, it's a little deal. And Lizzie, it's a little deal. Nobody thinks it's a big deal that
I
there's
think it's a deal. Not a big deal, not a little. It's a deal.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, last thing we're going to do here today is react to our season 34 teaser that was leaked from The Amazing Race on their Instagram page. That's really the main hub of where I get any information and communication from The Amazing Race is through Instagram. Also, check out the tribal_council_blogs Instagram page. Be sure to like, follow, and comment and share everything that's going on here for the ReRACEables podcast. We will be covering everything on season 34 starting September 21st at 10 p.m. Once the first episode airs, we're going to be recording afterwards and try to get it out as soon as possible. So be sure to look for that. Hot takes. That was the assignment I threw out there to everybody. Come up with 1, 2, 3 hot takes for the 12 teams based solely on the Choose Your Racer video that came out on their Instagram page. Not a lot to work with, obviously. We're going to save watching the team 1-minute clips for when those get leaked out in the coming days. And we get to know their personalities and their motivations and a little bit about their stories. But for now, we're just kind of a hot take machine, throwing them out there based on the teaser alone.
To start what I want to say, I'm going to reference back to Instagram and that post of the world map. Instagram user, the Feliminator, or Phil Kogan as we know him, strapped on this hashtag called #TicketBeforeYouKickIt. And I thought that was very interesting. And I mention that because when watching that team's video, I was paying attention to the sound that was playing when each team was announced and the text was being spelled out. It started out with like kind of like these like computer sounds, but like, you know, stuff being punched in. But there were a couple teams that sounded like almost like tickets were being printed. So I'm wondering if this means the reintroduction of teams choosing their travel plan to get from one destination to another, or if there are multiple options. Like, do you have the option to either take a plane or to take a train? And what are the trade-offs between? You know, Nicole mentioned some twists earlier, so I'm thinking this might be one of those twists possibly.
I did not catch that hashtag, so good on ya.
I didn't catch any of that, Jeremy. So props to you for picking up on anything they might or might not have put down.
Yeah, that's a clean sweep there. I did not pick up on the hashtag. I will now be using it, by the way. If you look at that map, there is Italy, Germany, Austria, France, Spain, a lot of European countries. So maybe that's gonna give Jeremy's hot take a little bit more validity as the episodes play out.
I hope he's right, because like we missed that. part of the race. That was like part of the race that made it so exciting was, oh, who's choosing the train? Who's going by bus? Tom and I recently traveled Europe, and part of our fun was trying to figure out, all right, what is the best way to get from Naples to Rome? Do we bus it? Do we train it? Do we take a ferry? And we were just putting ourselves in the shoes of, if we were on the race, what would a good team do?
Yeah, and how much money do we have? How much money do we want to spend on traveling and all those kinds of things? It was excellent training. So CBS, I hope you're listening, and we're ready for you for season 35.
I fully agree, and that's why I thought of it, was because you mentioned, Tom, like, are they listening to the fans? So they might have heard stuff about, like we mentioned earlier, how Aruna and Natalia got those many chances, but maybe they're also listening for, what do the fans miss? Because me personally, that's something that really got me into the Amazing Race in those early seasons, was this idea of, like, you're on so much budget, and also you're on your own to even just pick your flight alone. So, like, how do you best use that?
Something that I miss, and here's a hot take that I didn't have before we hopped on the Zoom, but I have it now because I learned some information, is that they dropped a map with everywhere they went.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
What is that about? No, part of my favorite parts was the surprise of learning where they were going to go. Now we suddenly know everywhere and it's not a surprise. That's so lame. I don't like that they did that. Hot take, bad idea. Didn't
Agreed.
like that. I'm ashamed, and I can't
Why
believe
is
you.
it so terrible, Lizzie?
Because that was half of the fun for me, was you had no idea where in the world they were going to go next. That's the whole fun of the show, is that these people are literally getting on a flight to who knows where. Nobody does that in the world, but here's a TV show where you sign up for it and you have no idea where you're going for an entire month. That's crazy. But if you have, like, suddenly you kind of know, then that puts a safety net under you that didn't exist before. Like, so if you know where you're going, I feel like that takes away the spontaneity.
Well,
it takes
the
away.
contestants didn't know, right?
I know that.
The viewers know.
I know that. I think it's still the same. I think it's anticlimactic to me now.
I agree.
But I don't know. It's disappointing.
I agree. You convinced me. It takes away from it. All of a sudden, you can start looking up places in Mallorca or
Stop.
I'm sorry, Malaga
I don't
or
want to
Nashville.
know.
Stop it.
Like, the fact that I know that they had in Nashville now, I don't even need to watch the season because I've been to Nashville and I know what it's like there. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you convinced me.
I'm like, this is hot take.
I guess
that I just did
been
not
fun,
come
Lizzie.
here.
You won't be watching anymore.
Yeah, well, we'll see now, we'll see.
All right, my first hot take. They start off with Rex Ryan, okay? I'm not a football fan, but I know who that is, right? This is their token famous person of the season. There's always one, at least recently, right? So what does this say about the target audience that CBS is trying to draw in? Jets fans? Is it football fans? They are a devoted group of viewers. One of the only groups of viewers that still tunes in live. Perhaps this is a strategy move to increase their ratings live in the moment. That's my hot take.
Yeah, and Rex Ryan is an animated former head football coach in the NFL. He is an analyst on ESPN, I believe now, and does all those hot take shows. He's outspoken. He's got something to say about everything. That's how he was when he was a head coach of the Jets and the Bills. And
I didn't know any of that, so good to know. I think you're probably right, Nicole.
Thank you.
And this bleeds into my hot take because I'm going to follow up on Rex Ryan. He got famous in a way because on the HBO Hard Knocks show, when the Jets were on there, he was basically very camera aware. He was very camera friendly. He was a constant snapshot, take what he said and just write a whole article about it. There was this one, he has a team meeting going, and all of a sudden he's yelling at the team. He's saying, we got to do this thing and this thing better. And now let's go get a snack. Like that became, you can look it up, like that became a whole thing. So I think they're maybe banking on him being that, but my hot take is that he's going to be absolutely terrible at the race. He is going to be terrible. First of all, he's 59 years old. Second of all, he's totally out of shape. Even though he was a football coach, he was, more worried about, let's go get a snack. He might be doing the same thing in the middle of Munich, and people will laugh or people will love it, or he'll be the most competitive guy out there and hopefully use his strategy on defense, being a defensive minded head coach, to help out the cause. But I think he's just going to be bad.
There's no time for snacks on the race.
Exactly.
There's not. The Amazing Race seems to like having that demographic of sports fans. I mean, we've seen a time and time again that they have ex-NFL players, ex-basketball players, basketball coaches. Like they really capitalize on the sports demographic. And I get it. Like it's an active sort of show. I'm not, maybe one of those sports minded people. I kind of like the travel and strategy aspect of it more, but I think it's a good move for them to have someone like that on their season. And I am interested to see how this sports team kind of compares against previous sports minded teams. What was the Panthers players? Was that last season, 2 seasons ago? But they got
D'Angelo.
Thank you.
2
Yes,
seasons ago.
they got to the final 4. Yeah, they did great. But I feel like there was another sports team somewhere in there it was the basketball coach and his son did not do good at all. So
there's a big difference between an athlete competing and a coach competing.
Well, and an older athlete, right?
Yeah.
Jerry was a Division I basketball player in 1980, right?
Thank you, Jerry. Yes.
Rex Ryan was he was, I don't think he ever played.
I mean, at one time he played.
Yeah, 50 years ago, but he's known for being a coach.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot different for him.
Okay, fair.
So earlier we talked about, these various twists we can have. And I thought back to earlier seasons of, how there would be these U-turns, there would be these intersections. I was brainstorming. This is like a thick hot take. I was thinking what could possibly be their next thing? Because I think it's going to be very much like signage or road signage inspired. Just to throw out some, maybe fork in the road could be one where a team could take, multiple paths. It's one level beyond a detour. But, we saw on the map, there were these 2 locations similar to each other. So teams can choose the best maybe route possible. So fork in the road.
Click it to ticket.
Yep, there we go. Because that ticket theme. I was thinking back to when intersections were a thing, and I thought maybe of a carpool lane where you team up with another team and you get to accelerate, or you have less obstacles in your way. Maybe let's grab a snack. Maybe park is a thing. What if you park for a moment, you're given an opportunity in the race where you'd be slowed down, but maybe some benefit comes with the way. Traffic lights, maybe hazards, maybe dead ends. These are just a few thoughts I've had of road-inspired mechanics that I think have the potential to be added to the race.
I like dead end. I think that's an interesting one where you have to choose one of 2 paths in the fork in the road, but one of them's a dead end. And then you have to go back to the other and keep going.
CBS, are you taking notes?
They should be.
For hire. I'm a freelance for hire.
Yes. Folks, we're tapping into sound. We got hot takes on sports world. We got it all here on the ReRACEables podcast.
Jeremy gave us a fair warning. The takes would be hot.
Turn on your air conditioners, y'all. Heat wave incoming.
All right. My next hot take This is just based on me watching the videos, looking at their names, and trying to figure out their relationship dynamic. I felt like it was more friendship teams than usual. Now, this is a little upsetting to me if this is true. As someone who loves shows like The Bachelor and Love is Blind, and I love the drama of a relationship, taking it to the test, going around the world. Do they work well together? Do they know each other's strengths and weaknesses? And that's something that, yes, you get in a friendship, but not as much as the drama of a romantic relationship is like the top. But then also, even like a brother sister relationship or a mother daughter relationship. So
The stakes are higher for you.
right.
Well, I agree, because also too, I think this was last season, the Love Island couple.
Yes,
How much
Taro and Ray.
yeah,
we love talking shit about them.
exactly. And I think you're so on it, Nicole, of like, that's what really kind of also brings us in as viewers, is that drama and that want for drama. Oh my God, they're about to fight. Let's go. Grab the popcorn. Like, they're going to hash it out in this taxi cab. I am for it.
There's a reason Will and Tara are one of the most memorable teams. It's because they fought every step of the way.
But also, Kim and Penn, how great their relationship led them to success because they knew each other so well and they used their knowledge of each other to thrive and win the race.
You know, it's another good example, I'd say, is Hung and Chi. Don't you think, Nicole?
I will never agree with that.
I smell a Hung and Chi award coming in maybe this year's awards podcast. Or maybe even a Caro and Ray, who knows? But I think you're right, Nicole. I think there are more friendship teams than usual that will have a void in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure what it will be. Maybe it's drama, maybe it's just more things for us, other lenses for us to kind of see the relationships that could have been on the show, but aren't. So it'll be a void there. It also seemed like to me, like most of the teams were from California. Did anybody notice that?
I was paying attention to the sound.
4, 5. It was like 5 or 6 teams that were all from California. So I wonder too, like, is there more of a certain kind of relationship that they're looking for that's more in California?
Well, I will say, I'm pretty sure this show is cast out of California. I think that's where the casting team is. That's not what it should be. I mean, it's a national wide search for casting, and I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. But there's also a big volume of people that live there. I don't know. It could be anything.
I mean, there was a Brooklyn team. There was one team from Brooklyn.
That's true.
It's nicer when you get a more diverse cast. Like,
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
when you get the Kentucky team, like they make things so much more interesting and entertaining because they're so different.
David and Mary, love them. I love when Midwest teams are on there. I know I'm biased, but it's so much more fun to have people from all over. Like, that's the whole point. I agree.
Tom, you said there are a lot of teams from California. Did you see if they were more from Northern California or Southern California?
Well, that kind of blends into my hot take a little bit. There was 2 from LA, 1 from Pasadena and Vista. That was the cheerleaders, if they had the Los Angeles Rams logo. So that's Los Angeles also. 1 team from Marina del Rey, 1 from Huntington Beach. I'm not from California. We were only there. We were in a lot of those places, but it kind of blurs in a big LA vacuum that's just sucks up all those other places. And kind of, for me, not being from the West Coast, kind of just thinks about it in terms of just the major city there. And I'm just going to go into my next hot take here. Derek and Claire, the next Team Purple, is a recycled team. meaning they were from another reality show. They were both on Big Brother. I think it was 23. And Derek was also on the Challenge USA, which is airing now on CBS. And so they're from LA. When I see that, I say to myself, like, okay, Derek has now been on Big Brother, the Challenge USA, and then they throw him on The Amazing Race also. Hot take. Are we recycling people on all these shows now? As a result, does it become that much harder for regular people, like what I would guess regular people? Again, we don't know anything, but Asta and Nina, they kind of look like regular people. They did clearly the most awkward thing in the video. They were like, all right, let's just wave our arm. That's all we got. Just wave our arms. But Derek and Claire, like, you watch that back, we've been on camera before. Well, bam. And they totally have been. And I'm just deathly afraid of shows becoming recycling people. Like, it's one thing to bring in Kim and Penn, who have 700,000 followers on Instagram and 500,000 YouTube subscribers. But also Kim and Penn were fun and funny and quirky and great together and have a great relationship.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. And I also fear that The Amazing Race just becomes kind of where is it in the pecking order, right? Where Amazing Race people are going to be at other shows are kind of above it, right? Survivor is in the time slot before The Amazing Race. So does somebody from Survivor just get thrown on The Amazing Race once every season now going forward?
I mean,
Yeah,
this
there's a
isn't a
difference.
surprise. This isn't a new thing. They've
True.
always done this. And I'm not surprised that they would have someone from the Challenge USA, which I'm assuming is ending now-ish. They want those viewers now to watch The Amazing Race. So again, this is not new, not surprising.
I think something to acknowledge, though, similar to season 28, I believe, which was the influencer season, there's a difference between recycling our celebrities, let's use that term, who are from these, Survivor-esque, challenge-esque shows. Take that versus being like famous, in Kim and Penn's case, like journalists, news anchors. I think there's a difference in that, and why I think Kim and Penn is so entertaining is because they are celebrities, but in a way out of their element. Versus if you're coming from Survivor, if you're coming from the Challenge, you're more in a similar environment when you're entering The Amazing Race.
Agreed. And it throws up a red flag for me. And it's becoming these professional reality TV people that, yeah, CBS has that with a certain few people that have been on multiple Survivor seasons or are on the Challenge USA now. But as much as I loved like CT or Johnny Bananas on the Challenge, and they were basically on every season, I don't think that that's necessarily good for CBS to kind of just keep recycling these same people on every show. I don't know. I didn't watch Big Brother 23. I've only tuned in a little bit on the Challenge just because it's the summer and it's August and I'm doing other things. But is Derek that interesting? Is Claire that interesting? Were they in a relationship? Are they claiming they were in a relationship? Are they really in a relationship? It just kind of throws out that Caro and Ray vibe of, oh yeah, they met on this show, but now we're going to just stick them on this show. And because of when we filmed it, it'll be okay. But
right. And like Johnny Bananas is a larger than life personality. And like you could see why, all right, you're going to put him on multiple seasons because he's very entertaining to watch. Boston Rob, you're going to put him on multiple seasons. People love watching. What is he going to do next? Derek, who? Why? Does he warrant being on multiple seasons of multiple
on 3 different reality shows
That's
in CBS?
I guess he's got something. We'll find out.
Yeah, I guess so.
One of the things that stood out to me, there was a team in the video that I don't know, I wrote down Black Jacket Team that was holding their microphone and just looking at the producers the whole time.
Yes,
and I can't
Aubrey
help,
and David.
okay, I can't help but think that they're gonna be out in one of the first 3 episodes. Because there was no high five. There wasn't even a smile to the camera looking at it. It was like, and I have to also thank the editors that put that video together. If that was the best footage they got of that team, something's off. There's not a good vibe from that team. So my hot take is that I think they'll be out in the first 3.
Anything else that we missed?
I
All right,
agree.
well, there you have it. Those are our hot takes based on basically nothing other than the season 34 teaser that came out today on Instagram. Be sure to stay with us throughout all of our coverage of The Amazing Race season 34, beginning September 21st, because we're going to have our power rankings, as we mentioned many a times on this podcast. We'll have our power rankings based on more information after the 1 minute or so videos come out for each of the teams, where we get to know them and their stories and a little bit more. So we'll have that before the season starts on September 21st. So be sure to look for that. Don't forget to comment, and share the rest. Thanks for being here, everybody. The blog has spoken. Be sure to follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. We'll see you next week on the ReRACEables podcast.